Outlet Liquor is your place to buy a case. Stock up and save when you shop the lowest prices available every day at Outlet Liquor. You never have to wait for a sale. The more you buy, the more you save. Only at Outlet Liquor.
What's your outlet?
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Crowd Assist podcast. Your friend Jake here with Slick L. Beautiful third. Slick, tonight is the first night of football. It's like the fakest football in the world.
Yeah.
It's not real football by any means. That's not fair. That's not fair. But it's the Hall of Fame game is tonight. We're gonna see people on the field in Canton playing the game of football, and that's good enough for me. How are you feeling How are you feeling just seeing like training camp back like the last week? Not just Bills camp, but just seeing it everywhere. Training camp content all over the place.
Oh man, it's awesome. You know, it brings a whole new buzz to the sports world. If you're a sports fan, you know, sure, like you said, we have football tonight. It's not the best football, but it's something other than baseball. So that's something to look forward to. And then you got, like you said, not only Bills Mafia getting hyped that the camp is going underway and going well because they're Super Bowl favorites going in this season, but you see every team's fan bases around the league start to get that buzz back, that hype, that their team that they root for every weekend on Sundays is getting back on the practice field and getting that motivation towards winning a Super Bowl championship again. And it's the best season in sports. So really looking forward to it. And like you said, all I'm happy about is that we have football tonight. It's more of a celebration than actually appreciating the actual game.
It's just hearing the pads hitting each other, like seeing the NBC broadcast go off. It's all good stuff.
And it doesn't have CFL labeled on it.
Exactly.
No offense to CFL, but you know,
do love
not the
CFL.
same.
Big CFL guy here too, but yeah. So we're gonna get into some Bills camp stuff. We're gonna see how optimistic we're feeling about, because I honestly feel like it's been all good news from Bills camp, besides like everybody fighting each other, which to me is still good news. I could see why some people wouldn't want to do it, but I just love that means these dudes are going 100. Everybody's going 110% right now. Like they know it. Everybody knows what's in front of them. Like you hear all the quotes, everything else. Like everybody on this team knows what's in front of them. When it comes to the expectations and everything else. So we're going to get into some fun, matchups within the team, see how we think guys are going to do. And then we're going to come with a pre-preseason. These are not, let me start with this. These are definitely not my official futures picks. Those will come at a later date. It is the first preseason game tonight. A little too early for me, a little too early in the training camp for me, but I'm definitely leaning some ways. I'm sure you are too. Before we get into it,
sure.
The Crowd Assist podcast brought to you by Outlet Liquor, the place to buy a case. What's your outlet? I miss Outlet Liquor dearly here in the Midwest. It's just, there's, if people from the Midwest, anybody watching, Binny's nothing close to Outlet Liquor. Nowhere's ever compared.
No one's touching it. The more you buy, the more you save.
The more you buy, the more you save. What more could you ask for, Slick?
Booze and saving money. Not much.
Booze, saving money, and watching the Bills win a bunch of football games. That's what we're going to do all year this year in the season in Western New York. But let's get into it. Just in general, I want to start you off with everything you've read, heard, seen on Twitter, whatever else. Like, what are you most optimistic about from camp so far? Just like highlights, anything. Literally take this in any direction. But I feel like there's a lot of reasons for optimism. There's probably some things that people are nitpicking, but you could go a lot of different directions. So what are you most excited about? Because I'm sure it's different than what I'm most excited about, honestly.
Well, you kind of touched on it. It'll lead me into some other things, but to get us going, first off, the scrums, like you said, some people think this is a bad thing. It means we got some gamers, bro. Like they are trying to win. They are trying to beat their teammate. They are trying to be the best at their position. They know what's at stake this season. We have a lot on the line. This may be our best chance ever as a franchise since maybe the Jim Kelly era to go all the way, win a Super Bowl. And these guys are not taking that lightly, not taking it with a grain of salt. training camp to them is a big deal, which means they want to win football games. That's what has me most excited. And then in terms of on the field activity, I like to hear that the defense and offense, we don't have one is really dominating over the other. You hear that
they're trading
one's
days.
having a really good day, they're trading back and forth, and it's overall just competitive. They want to beat each other. They want to beat their teammates because they know that their teammates are some of the best in the league at their position. And if they can get the upper hand on their teammates in practice, then we might have a very fun time running games against teams across this league. So I guess for me, it's not the lopsided on either side of the not being lopsided on either side of the ball, having a very well spread out game plan, and hopefully we can execute that come regular season.
Yeah, I feel like they've traded days, and everybody, there's been good days for the defense. We know Josh was throwing his helmet on the ground early in camp, everything else.
Yeah.
But it's just I made this point last week. They're fighting against perfection more than anything else, especially offensively. The conversations you hear, not the conversations, but the pressers and everything else we hear from Dorsey, Josh, from the receivers, whoever come up, they're working meticulously on things. It's not big picture things. It's the little moments in the games that they're trying to chisel everything down. But that continuity, regardless of Dable or not, Dorsey's been here for years now. The continuity is still there. You can see that with the way that they interact with each other, with the way that they talk about how much they trust each other and are willing to work out whatever is going to work the way it works out. Obviously, they aren't firing. It's not live action yet. They're not going to touch live action. We're getting there. We're getting there. It's only little more than a month.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm already I feel like I'm in training camp mode because I've been so locked into I know what's going on at basically every team's training camp. That's how I've been spending my free time. It's just figuring out what's going on in Cincinnati, so the energy is definitely there, and it's a different type of energy I've ever seen from camp. In Buffalo at St. John, Sean Fisher, anytime, because usually we have so many big question marks, usually around the quarterback position. And even last year when I think as a fan base collectively, we're mostly confident that Josh Allen's going to be able to replicate his 2020 season and the success we had there. There was still some can he do it again, right? Can he do? And now it's no one's even thinking about that. And that's never happened in my lifetime. I know it's happened in the Bills, Jim Kelly days, everything else, but that's a long time to go without some kind of confidence at all in that. So I feel like it's just but it's every position. It's not just the quarterback position. It's there's no holes on this rock. The biggest question mark for me is still going to be when Tre'Davious White is healthy, and if he isn't healthy, what did Dane Jackson and a Kyer Elam tandem look like? But that's one question that's still a month away from being resolved. So really it's nothing pressing for me. Optimistic, I really think Ed Oliver is going to be the 1B to Aaron Donald's 1A this year for interior defensive linemen. People don't talk enough about the fact that Ed Oliver coming into his draft year was a mostly projected number 1 pick almost the entire year throughout the process. And then his Houston team slacked a little bit. He kind of wasn't as explosive as he was the year prior, sack wise, stat wise, everything else. And that's the only reason he dropped to 8, but he was top 5, top 3 talent in that draft for sure. And maybe if he went to a school that was named Texas or Alabama and not Houston, might have gotten a little more love. And that's no hate to Houston, who has been a good program and we got Case Keenum, Houston boy too. But
for sure,
it's just the reality of the situation. And I've always when they got Ed, for me it was a steal just because of those projections earlier in the season. When you can get a guy at that kind of value that had that ceiling at some points, okay, well, he could probably get there. And just hearing the way Von Miller talks about him and just how excited he is to be across from him. And he says this about Greg Rousseau too. And today they think the quote was he's a demon. He's feeding him gasoline and
gasoline. Yeah. Oh, what was it?
I don't remember what it was. Gasoline and something, but
something scary.
Yeah, something that you shouldn't feed a human being. But but Von is doing what he's supposed to be doing with the young guys, and Ed just seems like the guy the story of Ed Oliver last year was he was getting pressure and getting so close and just couldn't get the sack numbers that he should have had. And now it just feels like that world is just going to open. Like, my favorite thing in football, all of football, is a dominant defensive line. I love quarterback play. That's one of my favorite things. I love wide receiver, route running. Like, when I'm talking like little intricacies, whatever. But there's nothing that like gets me, like, nothing I like more to have on my football team than a defensive line that can just destroy you on any play. And I know that that's what Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane feel too. And this is why I'm very fortunate that these are our coaches and management in charge, because it eases my pressure. Like, when we had Rex Ryan, that shit was like so stressful. That's the exact opposite of how I would, if I was a coach, when I'm playing Madden, I would never play defense like that. That shit would stress me out beyond belief. So just personally as a fan, love it, but I think it's also going to be extremely effective for this Bills defense this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, we know the mindset that McDermott and them bring to the game plan, and now this defensive line, like you were saying, the job they've done constructing it, putting it together over time, and watching it develop along the way while still adding pieces is just such a pleasure to watch. And like you said, we got some scary dudes on that line, eating some stuff that humans shouldn't be eating. Who knows?
They're on time.
Yeah, literally on goblin mode. And watching them chase after quarterbacks all season long is going to be a pleasure. Like ties back into what I was saying, no lopsided side of the ball. You know, we loved watching Josh Allen in that explosive offense last year. We were always a bit looking to get a bit more to the quarterback on the line. And I think this year, we're coming for you. You know, if you're a quarterback in the NFL, watch out. These guys are scary, and they are coming for you.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun. So let's have some fun with it then. We're in the spirit of futures here. We're trying to predict things out. We're talking about how loaded this team is. So these guys, listen, this is the realest thing the Crowdless podcast is ever going to do, because if you don't think this conversation has happened at training camp, you are sleeping. You don't have any idea what these dudes will do, because they are definitely going to compare every little thing. Basketball players especially, like always know their stat line, and football players always know their stat lines going into games and everything else. You got to pay attention to that. Shit makes you money. You got to pay attention to that stuff.
For sure. They got incentives in the contract.
9 and 10 sacks. Yeah, I was going to say 9 and 10 sacks could be $500K for all we know for some of these people.
Yeah,
so
it could be a vacation home.
That's exactly what I'm saying. So more sacks this year we're going to start off with. And let's go to the guys we were just talking about. Von Miller or Ed Oliver. Ed Oliver last year had... This was right up here. Now my thing is gone. He only had 4 sacks, but like we talked about, that pressure rate was crazy. And Von Miller, 8.5 sacks last year, but got traded midseason and then had multiple sacks in the playoffs. I believe 4.5 sacks in the playoff run, and was humongous for the Los Angeles Rams. So I think both these guys are going to push 10 sacks. I've been hyping up Ed Oliver all episode though. I'm going with Ed. I think he's just going to have the whole defense is going to have collectively a crazy amount of sacks. I don't think one guy is going to have like 15, 16, 17, anything like that. Maybe Von or Ed has a crazy season like that, and that's how dominant they are. But I'm going Ed by like 1 more sack than Von Miller. But they're going to be battling it out. We're going to hear about it throughout the whole season. Like he's just going to be like, bro, I can't let him beat me. Like, it's going to come up for sure.
Yeah, I think Von's going to add that veteran presence, and we're going to actually have a reasonably even sack count through multiple guys here on the defensive line. You know, Rousseau might have himself a season as well. I think Von is all his mentorship is gonna rub off on these guys, and you know, Ed's and other young guys are gonna have that spirit, like, oh, I'm gonna push to beat the All Pro, like I'm gonna go and get 2 more this season than Von, because like I'm gonna be the next Von. You know what I mean? And I think Von's going to instill that mentality in their head. I think we have multiple guys here on the defensive line that have a great season and put up big numbers. These two obviously sack monsters in terms of what they can accomplish. But I'm with you. I think Ed slightly out edges Von Miller here. And Von is completely content with that. Like I said, I think Von wants to get the best out of these young guys. He sees what they're capable of coming right into the system. And with his skill set and what he can do, rubbing off on these guys, who knows what kind of numbers they can put up collectively as a whole. Well, I'm also taking that, Oliver.
I was going to say, you got to guess more about who's going to get it, especially the other young guys, because we've got a triple threat match here between the three young defensive ends. Greg Rousseau, Boogie Basham, AJ Epinesa, all had shining days in camp, all been solid throughout all of camp. Only heard good things. Who do you got out of this group?
This one's tough, man.
It's hard.
Greg kind of exceeded my expectations a little last year, and he's such a physical presence that it's hard to pick against him. I think and AJ Epinesa showed out too. No discredit to Boogie Basham. I think I'm going to go with Greg Rousseau. He's just a freak of nature. I think he's that type of guy where he at his best versus another guy, maybe better than him at his best. He's just capable of doing different things on the line because of his physical presence. And, it showed in his rookie year. Groot, they call him. That you can only get that nickname from being a freak. So
a freak, yeah.
Yeah. I think that lives up to the name, and I think I want to see Greg Rousseau ball. He's picking people off last year. He's getting to the QB. Let's run it back. I think Greg Rousseau gets the more sacks out of all these guys.
I think that's the safe pick. Like if I was doing the odds, I'd give Rousseau like a minus 130 here, maybe like a plus 120, something like that. Like it's the lead. Yeah. I'm going Epinesa though. It's what I talked about earlier with Ed Oliver, as a guy who was regarded as the top pass rusher in his draft for a while, and then started sliding to the later first round, and then eventually slid to the second round where the Bills selected him. He hasn't been crazy, hasn't been crazy effective the first couple of years so far. This is his third year, though. This is when the Bills guys that develop usually start figuring it out. He's had a strong camp so far. Looks like he's in the best shape of his life. If you watch that Bills Embedded video of showing them at the Von Miller, the Pass Rush Summit, and listening to Epinesa talk after it, he's like, man, just like things I never thought about. Like I'm starting to learn from Von, and like learning at that summit specifically and everything else. So maybe the lights clicked for this dude, and things are going to work out. So I'm going Epinesa just for the value and just to go against you somewhere along the lines here. More interceptions, Kaiir Elam or Trey White. I'm going Kaiir Elam. I'm projecting a big year.
Wow.
I think he's going to be like a boomer bust type corner in a lot of situations this year just because of his physical skills, but not being as comfortable in this specific defense that the Bills run. They run more off zone, everything. He's used to press man, basically the exact opposite of what he's used to. But I think because of his physical traits, he's just going to be able to make some plays that other dudes won't be able to make, and still be able to grab a lot of picks. And this one was tough for me because Trey, who knows what Trey's going to be back. That's why it was tougher for me. Like I'm looking at that. Maybe he misses a couple games. Kaiir gets a couple legs up on him. But I honestly think Kair's just going to has great ball skills and is going to be able to show those off. Especially when we talk about that defensive line, if they're getting all those guys are getting all those sacks, like picks are going to come easily from that too. Getting pressure on the quarterback like that. So give me the rookie. I'm believing in the rookie.
I love that. I think though it's going to be a learning year. A lot of observing here. I think Elam's going to have a great year, exceed expectations, but I think Trey White comes back with a y'all must have forgot mentality. This dude is one of the best cornerbacks in the league, arguably the best. And I think he comes back and makes his presence immediately felt. I love this dude. I think like I said, a lot of things he does this season rub off on Elam. And Elam having lesser in this case this season might be a good thing. You know, you pick up on
That's fair.
things. Trey White did a little better, get the upper hand and get an extra interception than him in such game. And I think he learns a lot this year, especially with the other backs we have in the secondary. I got to go with my man Trey White. It's hard to pick against him.
It is hard to pick against him. I can't argue with that. It's definitely hard to pick against him in this scenario. But I did it. I feel proud of it. I'm going with Kyer and against Slick.
I ain't mad at you.
No, I'm not. Hey, I'm not saying we're all love here.
Yeah.
All love. More catches.
For sure.
Isaiah McKenzie or Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis is the big favorite here. Got to be the big favorite. Yeah,
for sure.
Obviously. But if Isaiah McKenzie is really running away with the slot receiver role, and he talks about like how he like who is he the understudy? He's like I heard an interview. Who'd you study the most? Like, what are you trying to like emulate in your game? And he just said Cole Beasley straight up. And we know how effective Cole Beasley was in his best year with Josh Allen. And Isaiah is twitchier. He's got more burst than that, can make more plays. I think after the catch and everything, doesn't really have to do with getting open and everything. But I still just looking at him saying Cole Beasley and knowing what the role has usually been for him and how much Josh trusted him. I feel like it could be. I'm still picking Gabe though. I couldn't get myself to get to Isaiah, but I brought it up. Like people are gonna look at it and be like, "Come on!" But I don't know if he's just full time the third receiver. First of all, snag him in fantasy definitely late in everything you're doing. Like that is especially as you're a Bills fan, like you want to have Isaiah in case he pops off. But I just think value there. Like if he's primed for a good role, you can get 80, 90 catches out of him pretty easily if he's playing every down, almost damn near every down.
Yeah, so it's funny you brought up that comparison, and I didn't even know he brought it up himself because I was literally going to bring up the departure of Cole Beasley, and you throw McKenzie probably into that slot position. Isaiah last year for me was, you look at the Bills receivers, he was the one that got away. He was the one that everyone forgot about on their secondary coverage and somehow slipped through a gap, made a play, got the ball upfield. And like Cole was so critical on those like third and longs, you know, Isaiah has that same potential here. And if he's looking for that, what's going to stop him? Like you said, he's twitchier. He might be a better route runner. We'll see. He has more upside now, obviously, than Cole later in his career. Hate to see Cole go. He had a great time with us, but you know, Isaiah can fill these shoes. I'm going to Isaiah McKenzie. I think Gabe Davis smokes him in terms of touchdowns.
Yes,
but I think Isaiah gets more catches.
All right. Wow. I like it because you heard my case for McKenzie. I agree with you 100% about the upside there. All right, last one of this, then we're gonna get to the nitty-gritty of our we're gonna expand beyond the Bills universe and go to the NFL and see what we got going on here. More touchdowns though. Stephon Diggs or Dawson Knox. Dawson Knox 9 touchdowns last year. I feel like he can get close to that again, maybe even more of that again. Dude's a baller. They're like, no doubt. But Diggs, I feel like is primed and like. I put 1,511 touchdowns earlier. I don't know if I really believe that, but man, he had 10 last year, one more than Dawson. It's going to be a battle again. I think those are the two guys that are going to lead the way. I'm going Stephon Diggs, though. I think he's going to have – I think Diggs is going to have like 13 touchdowns, like 12, 13 touchdowns. And it's just going to be – it's just one of these years, those two are going to have – like a damn near historic year. I just fully believe that with how talented they are. And it hasn't happened yet. They've been very good. They've been elite as a combination, but there's still more on there that they can accomplish together. And I feel like this is the year, like just throw the ball to Diggs, like 100 catches, 1,500 yards, like 12 touchdowns. And he's just the number one fantasy receiver, like all that stuff. That feels like it's all on the table for me. And that's the best case scenario I'm going with. But Dawson Knox, can't sleep on him too. I still feel like he's got like 7 or 8 touchdowns in him no matter what.
Easily. I think this is the closest matchup that we have discussed thus far. And isn't it crazy how like little time it took for Dawson Knox to be asserted into this elite tight end conversation in the league? Like
It's crazy,
absurd.
bro.
It's absurd. And like you could see all the signs from the start. People didn't want to believe it, but we all saw it. And now here we are facing reality. Everyone has to acknowledge it. Like Roman Reigns, like Dawson Knox is out here like acknowledge me. But I got to agree with you. You know, he's our big name. We got a lot of big names in the receiving core now after the
There's
performances.
just big names everywhere, man. It's just a big name roster at this point.
After what our receiving core did last year to improve their fantasy draft stock per se, Stephon remains the biggest name, and for good reason. I think he out-edges Knox 2 or 3 touchdowns, maybe 4. I think, like you said, Knox can get to that number 8, 9 very easily again, and I think he will. Not a lot of people can cover that man very easily, so it'll be interesting to see what defenses throw at him, but I think I'm going to take the safe pick here and stick with Stephon Diggs.
That's fair. Listen, last year, though, 5 receivers above 500 yards receiving. That's Gabe Davis, Knox, Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley, Stephon Diggs. So Beasley and Sanders gone. That opens up a lot more catches. I mean, Knox and Davis obviously going to move right up and get those yards and everything. But Isaiah McKenzie, only 26 targets last year, 20 catches. Those like that the growth that we're going to see in his box score for the rest of his life for this year is going to be nuts because, like you said, the guy that got away, like that's truly the one that got away. Stephon Diggs was targeted 164 times last year. Also, that's just that's a crazy.
Yeah, wow.
And I expect that again. Cole Beasley 112 times. So like that's a lot of targets that got to get moved around. And we don't know exactly how they're going to get displaced. I mean, James Cook is definitely going to be a factor in that as well. I would imagine Zach Moss is not getting 32 targets from the backfield. Neither Devin Singletary. He had 50. Doubt he's getting that. So the passing game is going to look drastically different, at least in terms of like statistic wise and everything else.
It's going to be exciting.
All right, Slick. Let's start it. We got our futures here. We're going to start off with our favorite stat props. So that's like anything passing yards, rushing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, receptions, whatever you want to pick. You got a couple, Slick. I know you've got some lined up there. So the floor is yours, man. What are your futures here?
Okay, first one I'm going to start off with. Let's get right into the passing yards. Patrick Mahomes is obviously the fan favorite for this pick, for good reason usually. But Justin Herbert, man.
Oh, you're gonna do it.
6-1, Justin Herbert with that arm
right now,
yeah. Can you blame him?
No.
That's a decent price too for a favorite. 6-1 with that arm. That offense, I think he's just been blowing my mind as long as he's been in the league. And if people are saying that this is that year he takes a next level step, like, man, he already looks fucking phenomenal. You know what I mean? So I think Justin Herbert, most passing yards, I really like that play. Will Mahomes probably be right up there with him and pushing for yet another one of those? Yeah, I think so. But Herbert, man, he's a weapon and a half, and I think he's something to look out for. 6-1 plus 600, that could be a moneymaker. I love it. Who do you got in this category?
Herbert was tough. It was tough for me to pass up too, bro. Everything you said, like Herbert's gonna blow up. Mine, it's not Mahomes, not Allen, not Rodgers, not Brady, not Herbert. Derek Carr, 9-1. Bro, do you understand how good Devonte Adams is at football? Do you understand how good he is?
Will when I get to my receiving yards prop. So yeah.
That might be a teaser for mine too, because I think Devonte Adams, like, this is when we're looking at the AFC West, I'm so much more bullish, I feel like, on the Raiders than I am definitely than the Broncos. And I have them like right there with the Chargers and the Chiefs as the team. And they were a great football team last year. They really were. They were a good to great football team for most of the year last year. And they added literally the best skill position player, maybe outside of Derrick Henry in the NFL. Like, I don't think I don't want to undersell it when I'm projecting on what the Raiders can do this year. Like, sometimes I'm cautious when teams like add, make trades, whatever, in my projections. I'm like, like, still want to see it play out, whatever. This is like special scenario where it's like, okay, these dudes are literally best friends from college. They've already ran all these routes together. Already, like, the 10,000 hour rule is already passed for these guys. It's going to be like riding a bike. And the weapons on this offense besides him, like, it's way better than what was going on in Green Bay with outside of that. And Adams was still being as effective as he was. So that's my I just spent 2 minutes talking about Devonte Adams when talking about Derek Carr. So I'll give Carr a little more props. He has Renfro and Waller too. And Carr is a guy that I didn't believe a lot in. And I was surprised that they kept with him for as long as they did. And now he's turned it around. And he is not a top 5 quarterback, but probably like a top 10-ish range quarterback. And he's earned that. So that's where I'm going with it. And I know that's there's no way, like, there's just no way it's going to happen. But
no, I like the pick. And it's funny that your main proving point to the passing yards pick was a receiver on his offense. So that speaks a lot for said receiver. Should we get into the rushing yards?
Whatever you want. Yeah, whichever direction you're going here.
JT, a clear favorite in the rushing yards here. No surprise there. I think he's quite up there again this year. This is one I'm not going to name who I really think, but a guy to look out for, especially with the odds he's at, 14-1. Najee Harris is going to be picking up a lot of workload in this offense, as if he wasn't already as a rook. And now Big Ben's gone. This offense might be run heavy. I think the amount of carries he's going to get a game could be a ridiculous number, just like JT was getting last year. Will he perform quite up to standards that JT did last year? No, probably not. But 14-1, it's worth a sprinkle. The odds on JT being plus 450, by the way, is crazy, right? I think next best guy is like plus 700, maybe close, something like that. Like that's insane. I mean, but that's what you get when you single-handedly put up like 5 touchdowns against one of the best defenses in the NFL. So I get it with JT, but I think a sprinkle on Najee Harris at 14-1 is great value, especially for an offense that might look a whole lot different this and revolving around him potentially this upcoming season.
That's a great pick. And I love Najee Harris to begin with, but he's gonna get a lot of touches this year. So I love that. I'm going 16-1 here. Devonte Williams in Denver. After I just said I didn't like Denver as much. This kid showed some fucking pop last year. So we got 2 second-year guys here we're rolling with. But Devonte Williams showed a lot last year, especially towards the end of the year when he was getting more run. And now he has a quarterback that is actually a threat to throw the ball. They're not just going to be packing 8 guys in the box. And I think that Devonte Williams is he's just a lot of these too. Like, I think his rush yards, why he's going to potentially be up there, is he's going to break a lot of big runs. Like, he's going to have some inflated stat games, like 180 yards or something, because he's going to have an 80-yard run because he's got that burst and can make people miss and everything else. So that's what I'm rolling with. And just because I didn't want to pick Derrick Henry or Nick Chubb or something easy like that. JT too easy. Yeah, JT kind of too easy too. But you don't know about what's going to happen with Matt Ryan and everything else there. Dalvin, I wouldn't want to touch just because of injury stuff and everything else. And then you start getting down that list. Like, Javonte and Najee Harris are probably the lower odd guys that I'd buy into, and that would be it. I love Lamar Jackson here at 50-1 next to like Rashad Penny, Devin Singletary. Listen, Lamar Jackson is the same odds as Christian McCaffrey to lead the league in rushing. That's wild.
That's nuts.
That is wild.
That is absolutely crazy.
What else you got player props wise? Any TDs, receiving yards? What else you got?
Well, I think we should just get the spoiler that we gave away a little out of the way. Receiving Devonte Adams, 12-1. Like you said, he's linking up with his best buddy. This, to me, just seems like, and I don't use this term very often, Jake Micah, free money.
Wow.
Yeah, I said it. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, like you said, one of the best skilled position players in all of football. And new offense, new quarterback, whom he's dear friends with. 12-1 just seems ridiculous for me on that price in that category. It's hard to even double team this man. So
Yeah.
I think you're on the same page, I believe. So it was good to, but
I'm not on the same page. Oh, you got another one?
Okay. No.
Okay.
The floor is yours. I guess I'm missing something.
Yeah, I'm going with CeeDee Lamb, who's 12-1, and they lost James Washington this week, unfortunately, to an injury. Michael Gallup coming back from an injury, and he's officially the number one guy. No Amari Cooper to take any targets away, and CeeDee Lamb has been ready to be a number one receiver since the day he got drafted, in my opinion. Like, I thought the world of CeeDee Lamb coming out. I wanted everything the Bills. I thought was, I didn't think they were actually going to pick him, but I was like, man, I would love to see CeeDee Lamb in a Bills uniform. Guy that I've just loved since his days in Oklahoma. I think he's primed to have a breakout year, and it's not bad odds. And Dak is going. You want to talk about targets? CeeDee Lamb is going to get fed. Like that's the thing about the Cowboys is they don't care. Like they're a business. So they just want to feed their stars and like. I was watching a video last night. There's like a NFL.com put like a nice, or NFL YouTube, I should say, put out like a nice. It's like 4 hours long, but it's a season preview of everything. But it's really nice, just concise, like everything that happened last year, who they added, like has all the good information and everything like that. And I'm looking through I'm on the Cowboys portion last night. And they're showing like the stats and everything. And Zeke last year had like 1,002 yards. And I'm like, they definitely made sure, like, that's the thing, like incentive wise, whatever else, like they're getting Zeke 1,000 yards to keep saying that Zeke's a 1,000-yard rusher. So no matter what the Cowboys, if they're 9-8 this year, they're getting CeeDee Lamb. Like the goal will be, if they're a mid team, they're like, all right, well, let's just get Dak and CeeDee to put up crazy numbers so people are still talking about us. That's truly what I think. That's a Cowboys move. So that's where I'm at with it. So that's what I'm collecting here on my list. Let's do past TDs here, and then let's go on to the divisions and some of the team stuff. Passing touchdowns. Here's my only, not my only homer pick, but my main homer pick is Josh Allen is getting passing touchdowns. There's no question. If that is just a lock to me with what is going to happen this year. He is also he is the favorite right now, I believe, or second. No, Justin Herbert plus 450. Wow. Josh second there plus 550. He is tied with Patrick. Oh no, he's tied with Tom Brady. Actually, sorry. Mahomes and Stafford 8-1. Rodgers, Burrow 10-1. Prescott 12-1. What do you got there, Slick, for passing touchdowns?
Call it a homer play too. I don't care. Josh freaking Allen, baby, he's taking this one. I could see him winning the overall most touchdowns on the season. JA 17's no joke. This is going to be a hell of a year. Not much else to say. I think Josh Allen wins that with a breeze. Lock. And lock. And I think it leads into potential MVP conversation.
We'll get to that soon. Let's get to, was that actually up next? Oh yeah, we got MVP up next. Yeah, let's do MVP next. If you are going to pick Josh Allen, which you might be doing, you might not be, I want you to pick somebody else too.
Okay.
I want 2 picks for MVP here. I'm getting the odds up, so I'm stalling a little bit. I will go first because I'm telling you that because I'm also probably picking Josh Allen. That's fair. That's my actual pick. But if you wanted somebody else on there, wanted to throw somebody else, a nice 16-1 Lamar Jackson looks very, very nice to me. The value of Lamar Jackson, a former MVP, at 16-1. Also, I just think One of my favorite things in sports is the contract year player who is going to ball out in the contract year because they know that they're about to get paid and like know that they want to maximize it. The best recent example is in basketball, Julius Randle finessing the Knicks. If you go look at Julius Randle's Pro Basketball Reference, the year before his contract, he averaged 19 points a game. His contract year, he averaged 24 points a game. And then last year, averaged 19 points a game yet again. So that is the perfect example of what I could call a contract year. Lamar Jackson, famously in a contract dispute or whatever you want to call it with the Baltimore Ravens, said there's times a ticking right now to get that deal done. He's not going to talk about it in the season. So give me Lamar on that other side there.
Yeah, that's true. That's a great pick. And so we'll get it out of the way. Josh fucking Allen, big pick of mine for sure. Absolutely. And then if I'm taking someone else, looking at these odds, I like Matt Stafford at 16-1, but
I was thinking about that too.
I think, and this might just be an easy way out, but I like Patrick Mahomes 8-1.
That's not an easy way out. That's
however you look at it. I mean, you lose Tyreek Hill, a little more pressure's on you.
I was going to say the narrative is what could help Mahomes a lot because it's not the star-studded cast that he's had in the past. Well, this is really not Tyreek, but that's a big deal. Tyreek Hill is incredible. That's a huge deal. And so you could see the media rolling with that. Like, look at how great Mahomes has been, and he lost his number one receiver. Yeah, I see that.
Exactly. Yep. That's definitely the storyline they would put to it, and I think he's going to ball out. He's going to be the usual Patrick Mahomes. So those are the two guys that you'd probably expect in that conversation as the favorites, rightfully so. And I got to take them both. It's just too good value and probability-wise.
Can't argue with that, Slick. I can't argue with those either. We got Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, all picks. I would roll into every season for the next 5 years with those three guys as futures
That's
MVPs.
The thing. Yeah.
Like, honestly. All right, so we're going to the divisions now. Let's get to some team stuff. I think let's do the same thing. Two division picks that you feel very – you know what? Do it one from each conference if we're going to do two. One pick from each conference that you are the most confident in.
Okay. I'm going to start off. How about we'll do 2-2-2-2. I'm going to go with the AFC first. And
I'm just saying two in general.
Two in general?
Yeah,
so one from each
general.
conference. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I do want to say then I guess I'll just touch on this real quick. The Bills being minus 200 for the AFC East is flat out disrespectful.
It is. That's
free money. I've never said that in my goddamn life. But I'll get to one other than the Bills because, you know, we do a lot of Bills talk, but this futures talk. AFC North. How are the Bengals not the favorites here? They just went to the freaking Super Bowl. 2-1. Book it for me. Free money. I think Joe Burrow doesn't have as great a year as he did last year, and maybe not the team as a whole, but they show improvements and they show enough and they show out and win the division. I think Baltimore's lost a bit too much, and injury-wise too, what they could have on their plate. I think the Bengals are lock's a strong word, but that's a very good play, and 2-1, hashtag free money for Slicko.
All right.
And then you want to take one, or should I go on to an NFC pick?
Go take both, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Oh, man, it's tough because I got
You like them. You like all your picks.
I'll do an honorable mention. I'm overdoing it here with these divisionals, but oh well. The Packers the past few years have just been clear-cut in the NFC North, and for good reason. Minus 182, it's kind of like that Bills line. You know, they've lost some talent too, but I think it's a little disrespectful. Last year I hit an amazing investment future on a parlay of the Bills and Packers to both win their division. Odds together on that, it's like plus 133. I think last year it was more in like the plus 180 range.
I'm gonna take that this year too.
I definitely got a nice return on that, and especially too when it was kind of looking sketchy for the Bills there down the line at the end until they took that second game against the Pats. But I do want to give an honorable mention here because the NFC West, the 49ers, don't count them out just of the division. Sneaky value potentially. I was surprised they didn't get a little more bump on the value. Actually, the bookmakers are kind of where I'm at. They still see that there might be some sneaky value on them. Plus 160. I believe the Rams are like right there at plus 140. So they clear cut two teams that they think are going to have the most impact on that division. But, 49ers catch one extra divisional Lance, a lot of uncertainties with that team. There's a lot of certains with that team. Is the quarterback position. Can Trey Lance right into the role and pulling corners? So I think there's sneaky value there. But yet again, Bills Packers parlay to both win their divisions. It usually does me pretty well, and I'm gonna ride it till the wheels fall off. Honestly,
that's such a smart play. That is a great. I'm gonna do that as well. Like probably after we're done with this show. That's an incredible play.
Yeah.
So I love two of your picks because I'm going directly against two of your picks, and they were the two picks that I wanted to talk about right away. Awesome. So I've got my whole list here. The Rams plus 125 because of the Trey Lance factor you said, and because I think the Cardinals are going to be an absolute shit show this year. I'm locking in the Rams. I think they're still just as loaded as they were before going into last year, regardless. So give me the Rams. I picked them to go to the Super Bowl last year. I'll probably pick them to go to the Super Bowl again this year. The Ravens, I'm picking. You said that Bengals. I was like, oh, I can't wait because I knew that was the one I knew I was going with the Ravens. And I kind of talked about it above with the Lamar thing. Like, I just think people have not forgotten about Lamar, but the disrespect has been consistent with Lamar since coming into the NFL. And I think those people just creep their heads back up. This team was a fucking they were gonna be 14-3 last year until everybody got hurt, and then Lamar got hurt. Once Lamar got hurt, obviously shit was falling apart. But they were probably going to win the division. They were one of the best teams in the AFC. And I think as long as he's healthy, that's just going to come back. I don't care who the receivers are, everything. We know what the drawbacks are of them when it comes playoff time, when it comes close big games, whatever else. Those questions are still there. But it doesn't matter for the regular season. This has been one of the best regular season teams in football with Lamar Jackson at the helm of quarterback. I think that's going to continue. The Eagles, this is shout out Lakewood, New York, Southwestern, Nick Sirianni. I mean, gotta cheer for the Western New York boy. But I honestly, talking about the Cowboys earlier, I do believe in CeeDee Lamb. I do think they're going to put up great offensive stats. But I think this division is like it has been basically for the last 20 years, a 9-8, 10-7 type battle to it. And I think the Eagles can come above with that. This team is much improved on their roster than they were last year. They added a lot of pieces, specifically having a wide receiving core of A.J. Brown and Devonte Smith is terrifying. Those two dudes together on the field is going to make life just so much easier for Jalen Hurts, who I'm higher on, I think, than most people are. I just think that it's the same thing. Obviously there's limitations, but he's clearly going to be effective. They made the playoffs last year, even if they weren't the strongest team. There's still things to build on there. And then my pick there at the end is just for the value, because I think the AFC West is going to just murder each other and give me the team that's the lowest odds. I don't know how the Broncos are ahead of the Raiders, honestly. I get the Russell Wilson effect, but that team was still not as good. It should be closer. The Raiders shouldn't be this far lagging behind. And it's mostly a value for this division that all these teams could be 10-7. Like no hate. I think the Chiefs are probably a higher tier than that, and they won't be, and they'll end up taking it away. But who knows? Like when these division games happen, who knows what's going to happen?
That division is going to be wild. The wild, wild west, man. You could end up with a result anyway. You could take any of those, and I would like it. But except the Broncos, I think you're right there. I'm not buying the Russell Wilson effect. I think they'll be a better team, but stop the cap, to say the least.
And no pun intended.
Yeah.
All right. So AFC Championship. I know one team you're gonna pick, and we'll put them on there because we have to. I mean, obviously, that honestly, do we even need to pick another one? Because I don't know. I'm not picking anybody else out of the AFC.
I did have two that I could see being their matchup. So, and this all comes down to how seeding plays out, right?
It's going to be huge, yeah.
It's massive. I mean, that one seed is really important, especially now with the extra game in the season. So I think seeding played out what it dwindles down to. I think we're either going to see the Chiefs, the familiar foes, and we're going to have to get over that hump once and for all, which I hope is the case, because I do want the Bills to prove to the world that they can beat the Chiefs when it matters. But I'm going to lean back to the AFC North. I think it could also be the Bengals teasing at another Super Bowl push. They blew my mind in the playoffs last year. It was just grit mentality, and no one expected them to do it, and they went out and did. So I think that's another threat. If I had to pick between the two, which is probably going to be the matchup, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. But you never know how that seeding plays out, especially with what we were just talking about with that AFC West. If the Chiefs don't catch a break there in the seeding, who knows? But I want to see them in the AFC Championship, and I want to prove to the world that we can get over that hump. Josh Allen is capable of beating the Chiefs when the lights shine bright.
Well said. Well said. Looking at these odds, like the Broncos, again, 8-1. They are the fourth highest odds here. I don't see
what
that.
What the hell?
Like, I don't get it.
That's just not happening.
I don't get it. It's probably just the action on them at this point. I'm going the Bills, obviously, and then I'm sticking with my theme here, going with the Ravens, because they are all 10-1. They are 10-1 with the Bengals and the Browns to win the AFC Championship the same. I think the Browns are a level below. I just believe in sports karma, real world karma, and also like when you have a mess like they have it there in their organization, usually it's hard to just focus on football and really like lock in. I'm not picking that team to win a division or go to a title just with everything going on there. The Bengals, they were like, I love the Bengals. I'm a huge Joe Burrow fan, huge Jamar Chase. I think they're going to be a real contender for a long time, but they were still 10-7 last year. And I just think the Ravens are like, I just feel like the Ravens are going to get back to where they were. It's really nothing against the Bengals. It's more for the Ravens. I think the Ravens-Bengals games this year are going to be some of the best games we get on television, because these two teams they feel like a level above the Browns to me, just all things considered. And then you said the Chiefs. I'd probably agree with the Chiefs too, but I'm just out of principle not picking the Chiefs. Like I've given up on being nice to Patrick Mahomes anymore.
It's tough.
This offseason.
Don't get me wrong. Especially when you see these two playing golf together, all buddy. It's like, dude.
Yeah, I don't like the buddy. I think he's setting
him over the head.
I think he's setting him up, bro. Yeah. Or maybe Josh is setting him up. Maybe we don't know maybe we don't know where the heel turn's coming from yet. But I'm just a little worried,
dude.
I'm just a little worried.
Oh, that heel turn. Oh,
just a little worried. All right, NFC Championship. What you got, Slick?
I got an exact matchup. Returning to the game again, I'm gonna have the Packers. And I got them going up against the Bucks. How could I not? Tom Brady announcing his retirement, then saying, "You know what? Psych. I'm coming back.
Nah.
Dude's 45. Give me Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady in the NFC Championship game. I'm very confident in this one. I could make other picks. I'm not going to. I think Aaron Rodgers shows he doesn't need Devonte Adams to get to where he's at, but I do think he would need him to win this game. And with that being said, that's the exact matchup. But I got the Bucks beating the Packers in the NFC Championship this year.
Well, I'm glad that you picked the Packers because I'm going to take the Bucks and the Rams. Everything you said about the Packers and Bucks, agreed. I'm probably picking the Rams to go to the Super Bowl. I'm still there right now. It might change in the month, like I said earlier.
How could you not? You know, like
I picked them honestly. I picked them to go to the Super Bowl for this would be the third year in a row. Well, I'd have to go back and look. Last year I definitely had the Rams. I think the year before I might have had the Bucks. I think I had the Bucks in the Super Bowl that year. The year that they actually ended up winning. That was the first Brady year. Yeah, that's definitely what happened. It was the first Brady year. I was like, oh yeah, Bucks for sure.
Yeah.
Those are easy picks. I'm not trying to take credit for picking the lowest hanging fruit and then thinking Matthew Stafford on this team. That was going to be a good thing. That one was a little dicey though. I will say that futures bet was very dicey. I was scared for a while there.
For sure.
Especially in that game against the Bucks in the divisional round. I was like, well, there it goes. See, I had the Rams in so much shit last year, bro. So much.
Yeah, paid off.
It did. It did eventually. It did. But I also had the Bills in a lot of stuff too. So it kind of after the Bills lost, I was like
Switch this year?
I was the biggest Rams fan in the world on Championship Sunday. So I'm rolling with it again.
Second to Stevie, probably.
Yeah, second. Yeah, no, you're right. Stevie was definitely the biggest Rams fan. All right, so Super Bowl. I know one of these teams. I already know that. And honestly, I don't know. I really don't want to pick. I don't know if I want to put it in the air of another team, but I will for the content gods here. But what do you got? Super Bowl picks.
Well, just because I laid out my exact matchups, and
that's fair.
I guess I didn't lay out my exact winner for the AFC, but it's obvious if you know where I was going anyway. But it's the storyline, man. It's the Bills versus Tom Brady and the Buccaneers in the different conference. And Josh Allen going to go out and hopefully prove why he's the best quarterback on planet Earth. But that storyline, man. Bills versus Brady, they meet again despite the departure of the AFC East. Old man even retired and then came back, and they'll still meet again. I think this matchup is just it could sell movie tickets, to be honest. And if we get that, we're in for a treat. Probably one of the most legendary Super Bowls of all time, given how the rest of the world reacts to the Bills these days and Bills Mafia. For the first time ever, it seems like we have a bandwagon, dude. What the hell?
Yeah, it's crazy.
When the Bills and bandwagon have never even gone in the same sentence. But it's awesome. I'm not complaining about it by any means. And I think a lot of people would be pleased to see us knock off the old man and the Buccaneers, potentially retire him in the Super Bowl. I think that would be sweet symphony music for the Bills. After all the shellackings he's given you throughout his career, you put that man out of his misery and say, you know what? Enough is enough, Tom. That's it. We're taking this one. You can ride off into the sunset. See you in Boca Raton.
I couldn't say it any better. Could not say it any better. I've obviously got the Bills. I had to pick an AFC West team at some point in here. Couldn't do the Raiders at 30-1. The Chargers as a playoff team I think high. We're talking about Von Miller being the closer and everything else. Those guys, we want to talk about defensive lines and everything I just said earlier in this podcast, coming full circle to defensive lines. The Chargers are in here because they have Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. And if those dudes are teeing off and they're gonna be smart with Mack and keep his pitch count low, just like the Bills are gonna do with Von Miller towards the end of the season, there's not even close to a better defensive end duo in the league than those two by the end of the year. And you get to a playoff situation, I still want to see what Herbert has out of him, like when he gets to a playoff situation and these kinds of more of these reps in these big games and everything else. He's done well so far, but we still need to see him like in a divisional round game against, in Arrowhead or something like that. Like those are the moments we need to see. Like you talked about, we've seen with Josh Allen now, whether they won or lost, like he's been able to perform in those moments. Need to see that with Herbert now. But that team has the ceiling. That team's ceiling is almost as high as the Bills, I think, in terms of like the whole regular season. And then I've been loving the Ravens the whole time, so I'm just going to go the whole way with them here and think that this is the year that it gets done. The Lamar Jackson contract year. Also, just 20-1 on the Ravens, who could be like a top 5 team in football the whole season, is too good for me to pass up on. Like teams ahead of them, like the Browns. Oh no, Browns are 25-1 here, but they're even with the Cowboys. Like I said, the Niners and Broncos have lower odds than them. I just don't buy that when it comes to the Ravens.
The Niners having lower odds than those two.
Like Trey Lance has lower Super Bowl.
The
Trey Lance led team has lower Super Bowl odds than a Lamar Jackson led team. That doesn't add up to me. I don't care what the rest of the roster looks like. It doesn't add up to me.
It really doesn't.
All right,
I don't care if the defense alone got you to the Super Bowl before.
That's the thing is the Ravens defense, man, they ain't nothing. They had no cornerbacks last year. They were down to like their 8th string cornerback.
Yeah. No, totally.
That shit was crazy. All right, that'll do it for the Crowd Assist podcast. For Slick L, this is your friend Jake. Slick L baby. I love that. Tune in next week, next Thursday, as we'll be preparing for a Buffalo Bills live football game at Highmark Stadium as they play on next Saturday, open up the preseason. So it's going to be good stuff. Enjoy your night. Enjoy. I don't know if this game has started yet. I think it started like 5 minutes ago. So go enjoy the first live football of the season and have a great night, folks.